last day of shooting, we picked the most difficult set ever. Smoke, mirrors in every direction. Love it. Welcome to Twilight.
You're listening to Another Bite of Twilight, a podcast where we look back on our obsession with the Twilight saga and continue to freak out 10 years later.
Hey guys, we're back.
We're back for a second Twilight Tuesday in a row.
Mm-hmm. And we are still talking about the book New Moon.
I was just saying how I think that this is going to be split up into way more sections than we split up Twilight, and
I hope that's okay.
I hope it's okay. Really, it's because this is our second time reading it in so long, and we have read Twilight multiple times.
I must have read this another time, but it feels like I haven't. It feels like I don't remember anything.
It really feels like reading it for the first time.
That must be why we have so much to say.
Yeah.
About this 2006 book, by the way.
What were you doing in 2006?
In 2006, I was in 6th grade. Yeah.
You were in 5th grade and 6th grade.
Okay, well, yeah, I was. The end of 5th grade. Yeah.
Yeah, the second half of 5th grade.
Yeah. I always think of it, though, like, because when I was born, whatever the year was the grade I was in. So, yeah, you're right. The end of 5th grade, beginning of 6th grade. I, wasn't up to much. I played soccer, softball.
Yeah.
Had some friends, I thought some dramas, but they were really nothing. Did the school plays as a minor role in the background. Yeah, what were you up to in 2006?
I think of it as 4th grade, even though it's like end of 4th grade, beginning of 5th grade. Still in elementary school. I don't know. I did dance. I did softball. I hated softball. My teeth grew in again. I was missing my front tooth for like 5 years, so it finally grew in.
Anyway, I just realized if this is your first episode, I'm Kelly.
I'm Mel, and
this is Another Bite of Twilight.
This is a podcast where we look back on Twilight 10 years later.
Sometimes we still love it.
Sometimes we read the books. Sometimes we just have topics that we talk about and cover.
Yeah.
If you guys have any topics that you want us to discuss, you can send them our way, and maybe we will dedicate an episode to them.
So, last time we talked about chapters 1 through 4 of New Moon, which doesn't sound like a lot.
But
it took us a while to get
a lot to say.
We had so much to say, and we were just laughing our heads off because we're recording this the same night as that episode, even though you guys will be listening to it a week later. And we just had a miscommunication. At first, I thought we were recording the entire book tonight. Remember?
Yeah.
And then you were like, "No, I didn't finish reading it yet." And I was like, "What? Miscommunication." And then I thought we were only doing that episode, and then I started like packing up to leave. And Mel was like, "What are you doing?" We were still doing the next episode. I was like, "Oh, what?" I don't know what. Yeah, I like unplugged the microphone. She was just sitting there waiting for me.
Yeah, I thought she was just stretching. She was like walking around, lingering in my room.
I literally thought you were like, "Okay, bye."
No, I was parked right
Time
here.
to go.
But we both said things that like hinted at what we both thought was happening. Like she was like, "Oh, I wish we could record more tonight," but I thought she meant more like the whole book. And
I was like, "I don't want to stop."
Yeah, and I was like, "I don't know how we're gonna start this second episode," and she's like, "Oh, we can just start it regularly."
Total miscommunication.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Because you notice I didn't get up from my seat.
Yeah, I don't know what I thought you were doing. You're just sitting there. I
still had the book in my hand. I was still holding it. But,
well, you know what? Miscommunications happen a lot, and they happen in New Moon. Between characters.
They do. And they happen in Romeo and Juliet, which is what this is inspired by.
Yep.
So
we just experienced our own.
It's the theme of the episode.
All right. So if you guys have been following along, we're on chapter 5 right now.
Which is called Cheater.
Cheater. What does it mean? I don't know.
So, I don't know. Cheers, the title.
We're like imitating Catherine Hardwicke, by the way, when we talk like that, just in case people don't know. Yes, so, cheater. Bella is working at the Newtons camping goods store.
Mm-hmm.
This is her part-time job after school.
Yeah.
And that's where it starts off.
Yeah, and it's called Cheater because after Bella's little rendezvous on her night out with Jessica, where she starts to hear Edward's voice for the first time, she gets the idea that she can break her promise that she will stay safe because Edward could never keep his promise of making it as though he never existed because she cannot forget him.
So now she's cheating on her promise.
Yes. By
to be safe. Yeah.
living recklessly.
Mm-hmm.
And so she starts thinking about it, and this is when she gets the idea about the motorcycles, right?
Yep. Yeah. I had a note that was right at the beginning of this chapter. There are these hiker guys in the store, and they're talking about the bears, which are actually the wolves, and they say that they're taller than a person standing on all fours. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, I just don't get why the wolves are that tall.
Yeah.
It really bothers me for some reason.
They're huge.
It's like a horse.
In the movies, they changed quite a bit. I feel like they're really, really big in New Moon, and they get smaller as the movies go on.
Yeah, it's hard to believe.
Yeah. Also, I don't get why people would think it's a bear.
I know. They keep saying that. The bear.
Bears aren't that big.
Bears are really big. But they're not that, you're right. They're not
taller than a person
on all
on
fours.
Yeah.
And they don't look, bears don't have tails like that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know why everybody is thinking that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, so that's some foreshadowing. You know, we're hearing the people talking about this creature that's in the woods.
Yeah.
I feel like it wasn't super obvious to me when I was reading this for the first time what that was. But I feel like reading it now, I feel like if I was reading it for the first time at this age, I would think that is so obvious.
So obvious, Stephanie. Yeah, actually, I'm trying to remember, like, the first time I read New Moon, actually, I remember it perfectly. I read it when I visited Ireland with my family, and it was very cloudy there, so it fit the setting. I don't think I knew that Jacob was going to be a werewolf. Like, you know, that wasn't spoiled for me or anything, so I think I was like, I don't remember my reaction, though. Was I like, what the heck? Or
I don't know.
Did I just roll with it?
I think I might. I don't know. I don't think I did know about it. I will say, reading it, not to jump ahead, it took me forever to realize that the wolves weren't killing innocent people.
Yeah, and same with Bella.
Yeah. I, like...
Total misunderstanding.
But even when Jacob... even when Jacob explains it to her, I didn't believe him. I still thought, like, God, they're so evil. They're just killing all these random hikers. I didn't put two and two together that it was, like, Victoria doing that. Yeah, I mean, at this point, it's probably Victoria's army, right? The army's already been created.
Has it?
Well, I think Riley has been turned, right?
Oh, really?
I don't know.
No, I don't think so because...
I don't get the timeline.
I think that she's still in the area. I think when it's the army, they're not in the Forks area.
Okay.
And I think that she only... Yeah, I don't think it's the army yet.
Okay. Do you think she creates the army because she's having so much trouble getting to Bella because of the wolves?
Possibly.
Possibly.
Becoming my catchphrase. Yeah. Also, I think that whole thing where now the Cullens aren't there, so that's an advantage. But when they're back, Alice can predict what she's up to. Yeah. So I think that she creates the army to do it for her.
Yeah.
And Riley makes the decisions for her because, yeah. Anyway.
Victoria is a coward. So, yeah, Bella sees a for sale sign with the motorcycles, and
they're actually a kid
In her grade?
in her grades, like at his house.
Yeah, and it's raining.
Which
I think.
in the movie doesn't explain
She just
it.
shows up.
She
with
says
the
she got them at the
motorcycles.
junkyard or something.
Yeah.
I'm like, what were you doing there?
Yeah.
But they don't show that in the movie. So
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting.
And how did Bella get them on her trunk the first time in the movie?
Yeah, they don't say. In the book, this kid helps her
Yeah.
put them in the truck. What's his name?
I don't know. It's not really important.
It isn't. It's just one of the Marx boys. That's all she calls them, I think.
Yeah. So she brings it to Jacob's house, and this is the first time she sees Jacob, thinks about Jacob.
Yeah. This is the first mention of him, I think, right?
Yeah.
Because the kid tells her that they're going to be too expensive to repair, and then she remembers
That she knows a kid who's good at cars and shit.
Yeah.
And so she's like, oh, it's okay. My friend can fix it up for me.
Mm-hmm.
And she goes, I was stressed when she's bringing these motorcycles to the Black's house for the first time because they're in the back of her truck and, like, they walk around the side. I just thought that Billy was going to see them. Even though I know he didn't, I was like...
It is stressful.
I was nervous. Because they have to do this all behind Charlie's back.
I think this is very different from the movie because in the movie they act like Bella and Jacob are already friends. Like, even the fact that he gives her a birthday present, here, they're not friends at all.
No.
Like, she really doesn't know him.
Yeah.
And I thought it was interesting that Jake's described as having a raspy voice. And he seems more humble than in the movies. He calls himself a beanstalk.
Mm-hmm.
He's, like, tall and skinny.
He's just...
Also, I like raspy voices, so that, like, makes me like Book Jacob more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't like movie Jacob voice.
No, I hate
Just
Book.
kidding, Taylor.
Just kidding, Taylor, be on our show, please. We know that's not your real voice. No. Yeah, I think movie Jacob's voice is very annoying.
Yeah.
Insert clip.
Wow. Scrap metal. Totally stupid and reckless.
Well, I got mad skills.
I liked this quote at the end of chapter 5. I put this on our Instagram as well.
Mm-hmm.
She says, as we sulked back into the makeshift garage, I contemplated my luck. Only a teenage boy would agree to this, deceiving both our parents while repairing dangerous vehicles using money meant for my college education. He didn't see anything wrong with that picture. Jacob was a gift from the gods. Jacob cares nothing about school.
And weirdly, she doesn't either.
Yeah.
Even though she's so into homework and getting
She starts
good grades.
neglecting her homework when she starts hanging out with Jacob.
Very unpredictable girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, the next chapter, chapter 6, is called Friends. So that was cool because there's a song
Yeah, I was
called
thinking the
that
same thing.
on the soundtrack.
I wonder if they were inspired by that.
Maybe.
They're fixing up the motorcycles. My first note for this chapter is she meets Quill and Embry, who I kind of feel like I just got a glimpse of myself in the mirror. I kind of look like Quill or Embry right now. It's like the way my hair looks and my makeup is like come off from the day.
Yeah, I'd say you look just like Embry. You look like Quillatera.
Did you guys think in the first Twilight movie, Jacob's friends that he has when we see him at La Push, that they're supposed to be Quill and Embry, or are they just two random guys on the res?
I think they were just random guys on the res.
Yeah.
Because in Twilight, I don't think we heard their names, did we?
No. But, like,
Yeah.
I kind of thought...
They looked so old.
Yeah.
I don't know who they were.
The Cullens don't come here.
Yeah.
But, so we meet...
Hopefully not, because then they changed the actors and I hate
Yeah,
the movies too.
yeah. So we see Quill and Embry, and she's like, those are unusual names. And he says that Embry is named after a soap opera star. I did some research, could not figure out who that was and what show that was from.
Weird.
Yeah, I don't
Interesting.
even know if it's true. If you guys have any ideas, let us know.
Quill's a cool name. I think they're both pretty cool names.
Yeah.
Actually.
On 145, I liked this description of Jacob as just a happy-go-lucky person.
Oh, yeah.
She says, it was Jacob himself. Jacob was simply a perpetually happy person, and he carried that happiness with him like an aura, sharing it with whoever was near him. Like an earthbound sun, whenever someone was within his gravitational pull, Jacob warmed them. It was natural, a part of who he was. No wonder I was so eager to see him, which I thought was really sweet.
Mm-hmm. Too bad that doesn't really last.
No.
I mean, part of it does, but not all.
And then on page 153, I have a feeling that we have a note about the same thing.
Oh.
You go first.
Okay. My note was at the very bottom. So she is at school. And I'll just read the part before that. She gets to lunch. Mike was there, Jessica and Angela, Connor, Tyler, Eric and Lauren. Katie Marshall, the redheaded junior who lived around the corner from me, was sitting with Eric, and Austin Marks, the older brother to the boy with the motorcycles, was next to her. I wondered how long they'd been sitting here, unable to remember if this was the first day or something that was a regular habit. And this is the part I wrote down. I was beginning to get annoyed with myself. I might as well have been packed in styrofoam peanuts through the last semester. So here is like a turning point. I think Bella is realizing how much of a zombie she's been and how she's really checked out on her friends and realizing that it may have affected them. And like I feel especially bad for Angela. I know Bella's like, oh, I can't deal with her because she'll want to talk to me, but like, how does Angela feel? You know? But I was getting annoyed. I mean, I feel for Bella. I'm compassionate to her, but I also have been getting annoyed with her. So I'm happy at this point when she's like, I was beginning to get annoyed with myself.
Yeah.
I'm like, good.
And she starts asking them questions. She's being observant. There's this one really funny part on page 154. Lauren is one of the friends at school who never really liked Bella from the beginning.
Yeah.
She's not in the movies at all. But, okay, so Bella says, I barely recognized Lauren. She cut off all her blonde corn silk hair. Now she had a pixie cut so short that the back was shaved like a boy. What an odd thing for her to do. I wished I knew the reason behind it. Did she get gum stuck in it? Did she sell it? Had all the people she was habitually nasty to caught her behind the gym and scalped her? I decided it wasn't fair for me to judge her now by my former opinion. For all I knew, she turned into a nice person.
Very interesting.
Yeah, she's like so judgy about this haircut.
But then it's like nice that she turns it around and is like, well, I can't judge her because I don't really know her anymore.
Yeah.
It's pretty
then
mature.
Bella defends Angela's account that there was a bear
Oh, yeah.
in the woods because Bella overheard people talking about it in the store.
Yeah.
And Lauren snorted, "Oh, not you too." Her eyes turned mocking, and I decided I didn't need to give her the benefit of the doubt. Obviously, her personality had not changed as much as her hair.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Bella.
Bella doesn't like that girl.
Enemies.
And then my last note for this chapter is Angela is so sweet. So obviously Bella has like woken up at lunch and she's asking questions. And Angela thanks Bella for sticking up for her and like validating the thing about the bear.
Yeah.
And she says, "Thanks," she said in a low voice when we were away from the table. "For what?" "Speaking up, sticking up for me. No problem." She looked at me with concern, but not the offensive, maybe she's lost it kind. "Are you okay?" This is why I'd picked Jessica over Angela, though I'd always liked Angela more for the Girls' Night movie. Angela was too perceptive. Not completely, I admitted, but I'm a little bit better. "I'm glad," she said. "I've missed you." She's so nice. Angela.
I love Angela.
Yeah.
And then Lauren says, "Oh, joy, Bella's back." And then, this is how the chapter ends. Bella asks her what the date is. Angela says it's January 19th. What is it? Angela asked. "It was a year ago yesterday I had my first day here," I mused. "Nothing's changed much," Angela muttered, looking after Lauren and Jessica. "I know," I agreed. "I was just thinking the same thing." It's kind of sad, that whole, like, as if I didn't exist Edward thing.
Yeah, exactly.
And this really hits Bella, actually, in the next chapter, I think. She doesn't like the feeling that it's like nothing's changed.
Yeah.
Really bothers her.
Yeah. The next chapter is chapter 7. It's called Repetition.
Repetition.
So she goes to the Cullen's house to see, you know,
Cullen's
like,
house?
yeah, to see, well, she's, you know, struggling with the idea that it would be as if they never existed.
Yeah.
So
like,
she
that
wants,
comment really is bothering her.
yeah, so she goes there to see, almost like she's worried that she made it up in her head.
Yeah.
And she goes and she sees that the house is empty. There's no furniture in it. She's, like, looking through the windows. I was wondering, do they still own the house, and where did they put the furniture?
I think they do still own it, but I don't know about the furniture.
Because then when they go back, it seems like the furniture...
Maybe they have a storage unit. Or
Yeah.
I don't know. The Cullens can run around really quickly, so I just assumed that they unpacked insanely fast.
Mm-hmm.
Like in an hour.
Even as a vampire, that's got to be a huge hassle.
Well, I also assume that they're really bored with life, so they probably just are happy to do it.
You think so?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like, oh, we have something to do.
So where do they... So they're just, like, carrying the couch and stuff? Like,
I guess.
where?
You'll find out later.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
So we know where they put the furniture?
Well, we know where they moved, yeah.
Well, do they bring the furniture with them?
Maybe. I don't know where they do. I don't know what they do with the furniture.
Well, we know where they go. Don't they go to Alaska?
No.
Oh, shit. Guys, I gotta keep reading.
Well, one of them did.
Yeah. Who, Edward?
Nope. You gotta keep reading. I know, it's gonna surprise you.
Jasper.
No.
One of the Cullens went to Alaska?
Yeah.
Just one?
They all moved somewhere.
Okay. But they didn't go
But
in the same
then-
place.
But then someone went to Alaska on like
Oh.
a trip or whatever, but...
Laurent?
Okay,
Okay, sorry. Sorry, okay. Sorry.
You gotta finish the book.
Yeah, I'm behind. Okay.
I
Do you have
wrote,
any other notes?
I wrote that Bella starts to move on a little.
Mm-hmm.
She's chatting with Mike at work, and he's really happy about that because she's been kind of ignoring him. And hanging out with Jake. Jake and Bella start hanging out every single day. And she did that with Edward, too. Like, they literally hung out every day.
Yeah.
And you know I love Edward. But I think that's a little bit too much. And, like, it disappoints me a little bit that she hangs out with a guy every single day again, Jacob.
Yeah, why couldn't she hang out with Angela a lot?
I know. Like, she never does. And she tells her dad that, like, oh, Angela has a boyfriend, too, so... meh. I don't know if she said that in this book or in Eclipse, but I remember she does say that.
Yeah.
But still, I bet Angela would like to hang out with you. Also, I wrote down, I always thought of Bella as being a super introvert. Like, she seems like a classic introvert.
Yeah,
But
and very
it actually
independent.
surprises me how happy she is to hang out with somebody every day. Like, she doesn't seem to get tired of hanging out with Edward or Jacob.
Yeah, she doesn't really want to be alone.
And I think, like, in my experience, even if I'm super into someone, I, like, need my alone time.
Yeah.
It just surprises me that she so quickly jumps into that routine of hanging out with Jacob all the time.
I cannot hang out with someone 24/7.
No.
I would go crazy.
So then Jacob tells her about Sam Yulee and his group, or cult, as he calls it, and it actually sounded really scary to me. Like,
Yeah.
as I was reading about this, I was like, whoa, I would be really creeped out and nervous, because how he says that Embry hated Sam in the group, and now he's part of it, it's like, geez, that's really scary. Like, is there some kind of blackmail thing going on here?
Yeah.
Or it seems like a real gang, or
Yeah.
it's unnerving.
And it's sad that to see your friend, he's like, Embry's now rejecting him. And
Yeah. Like, just a chapter ago, Embry was normal, and now he's, like, part of this group.
It's really upsetting Jacob because he sees that, like, Sam keeps staring at him and he is worried he's next. And Bella is, like, taken aback by how he looks really upset about this. And she says on page 171, I would have thought Jacob was nearly impossible to upset. And I just underlined that and wrote, just wait.
You just wait.
You don't know him like we do.
It really does sound like a cult or something.
Yeah.
Like some kind of weird pseudo religion. How they're like the protectors, and later when Sam says he's helping Jake, and Jake keeps saying he's helping me, it's like it sounds like a spiritual thing or something.
Yeah,
It's, like,
it is
creepy.
scary. I mean, it kind of is a cult.
It is. And the fact that they need permission, I mean, we're jumping ahead here, but they need permission from the pack for everything, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I get it. the importance of, like, being a part of a pack for the werewolves, but at the same time, like, they don't really have free thought because all of their thoughts are in unison with each other.
Mob mentality.
Yeah. I don't like it. Don't mess around with them. Poor Leah.
I know. They're still repairing the motorcycles and stuff. And the chapter ends with... Oh, they're about to ride them because I guess the bikes are done.
Yeah.
And that's where it ends.
So, chapter 8, it's called Adrenaline. It starts with, okay, where's your clutch?
I pointed to the lever on my left handlebar.
It's interesting, when I was in college, all my writing teachers said never start a story with a quote.
What about a chapter?
Maybe. I mean, yeah, these were all short stories and stuff that we wrote, so. Because you can't really place it and picture it.
Yeah.
But I think a quote like this, you can. You know it's Jacob saying it. You know the context of it.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
Like, we know where they are.
Yeah.
And who's saying it. So, I thought... Oh my gosh, this chapter is crazy. I was like freaking out because, so she starts riding, she hears Edward's voice, and she falls off the motorcycle. I'm like, oh my god.
She gets a head wound.
Mm-hmm. And I said this before, I think during our movie episode, that I kind of get the voice thing. That sounds weird, but like in the movie, she sees Edward. I think that's really weird, but I can kind of understand, like, in your head hearing someone's voice, because, like, you can forget people's voices, and sometimes, like, I think about someone from a really long time ago, and I try to remember their voice, and it can be hard to remember, so I think I understand her excitement at, like, hearing his voice, because voices are easy to forget, and it's, like, kind of scary, so...
Yeah. She does earlier in the chapter with Jessica explain it as, like, she tries to rationalize it and says it's her subconscious telling her what Edward would say.
Yeah.
I do, like, I've had dreams, like, where people I haven't seen in a long time, or, like, people who have passed away, and they're in my dream, and it always freaks me out that I can hear their voice so vividly, because in my waking everyday life, I don't really remember what they sound like. So I do think it's, like, something that your subconscious does hold on to. But something I was wondering, and this is kind of jumping ahead, do we think that the voice is definitely her subconscious, something that she's just imagining in her head, or do you think that there's any magical element to the voice? Because it is, like, a supernatural story.
I don't know. I never thought it was magical, but... I do see that it kind of... I think the book kind of wants you to think it is, maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think if this happened in a non-supernatural story, it would be super concerning.
Yeah.
Because it's happening in a fantasy, then it's okay.
Yeah. Makes sense.
There is a part later on.
Sort of.
Yeah. There's a part later on when, like, it's before Bella knows that Jake is a werewolf, and... Edward's voice is telling her not to upset him, and it kind of seems like he's giving her information that she doesn't know yet.
True. I feel like because the precedent, like, has been set that anything's possible in these books, like vampires, like crazy things, that when something like this comes up, it doesn't seem that weird. Because you're like, oh yeah, well, maybe she can hear Edward talking. Maybe he is, like... It's almost like reverse reading minds or something.
Yeah.
Like she's getting his thoughts. I don't know. But on page 184...
Maybe he has a superpower that he hasn't disclosed.
Maybe. On page 184, when she falls off the motorcycle, she hears Edward say, "I told you so," the perfect voice murmured, crystal clear. To me, that doesn't sound like something Edward would say. Like, I really don't think Edward would say, "I told you so," when she falls off. And that sounds like Bella talking to herself.
Projecting, yeah.
I feel like Edward would be like, "Bella, are you all right?"
Yeah.
And, like, would pick her up. Like, it would be really sweet. And he'd be like, I don't think he would be that mean.
But I kind of feel like the last she saw Edward, he was so cold that, like, her perception of who Edward is has changed now. So, like,
That's sad.
His voice has kind of changed in her head. He's mean now.
No. I wrote, how does S. Meyer know so much about motorcycles? She seems to really know her stuff. like, all the technicalities of it. Maybe she knows someone with it, or maybe she just Googled it.
Oh, Stephanie Meyer?
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, who's S. Meyer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, this is crazy, Bella falls again.
Yeah. And
I wrote, this is ridiculous. Dude, Bella, okay, so far, let's keep score. In this book, Bella has, she got a paper cut. That's not that big of a deal.
Yeah.
But then she was thrown across the room and had to get stitches.
Mm-hmm.
Now she's fallen twice off motorcycle.
Yeah.
And she needs to get stitches again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Isn't that insane? Twice. Yeah. Okay, we're on page 184. Twice.
Wait, okay, you know how
stitches.
Carlisle stitched her up?
Yeah.
Did she get those stitches removed?
I don't know. They didn't tell us.
Because then
She pulled them out herself.
Well, then the Collins left like 2 days later.
She could have gone to the doctors.
Yeah. Yeah, so she gets a head wound. And she's bleeding. And Jacob is concerned about it, rightfully so. But she doesn't really care.
7 stitches.
She really downplays it. And she says, I didn't feel bad at all as he coaxed my truck to a deafening roar in his hurry to get back to me. My head stung a little and my stomach was uneasy, but the cut wasn't serious. Head wounds just bled more than most. His urgency wasn't necessary.
You wrote, oh, Bella. On page 192, we get this classic line where she says to Jacob, I just hadn't realized before, did you know you're sort of beautiful? Once the word slipped out, I worried that he might take my impulsive observation the wrong way. But Jacob just rolled his eyes. You hit your head pretty hard, didn't you? I'm serious. Well, then, thanks, sort of. I grinned. You're sort of welcome. So, it's a little more awkward in the book than in the movie, but...
Yeah.
He helps her out after her injury and takes his shirt off, right?
Yeah, I think so. And then... Well, so then he takes her to the hospital, as we mentioned. Mm-hmm. Something I didn't get is, she writes, Jacob held my hand while Dr. Snow was sewing, and I tried not to think about why that was ironic. Why was it ironic?
Dr. Snow was sewing, and I tried not to think about... Maybe because he's warm? Is he warm already?
I don't know. She does call him her personal son.
Maybe something to do with snow.
Yeah, I don't know. I also didn't know if, like, snow related to, like, you know, the vampires.
Oh, yeah, the Cullens. Probably.
It's not super obvious.
Stretch.
Yeah. I don't know.
So, we haven't mentioned this before, that Bella keeps describing a hole in her chest.
Yes.
Gaping hole.
Yeah.
And it hurts more sometimes than other times. When she's away from Jacob, the hole hurts more, which is kind of concerning, but understandable, I guess. I wrote on page 193, launched into a tree. I can't find this. Oh my gosh, what?
I don't think that's on page 193.
Yeah, it is. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. So, you know, Bella gets stitches. She tells her dad, like, a lie that she, like, tripped in the garage or something, and that's why she hurt her head. Maybe you should just stay out of the garage altogether, Bella. He suggested that night during dinner. Charlie says that. I panicked, worried that Charlie was about to lay down some kind of edict that would prohibit La Push and consequently my motorcycle. And I wasn't giving it up. I had the most amazing hallucination today. My velvet-voiced delusion had yelled at me for almost 5 minutes before I'd hit the brake too abruptly and launched myself into a tree. I'd take whatever pain that would cause me tonight without complaint. Is this another time? Like, because... Before, we didn't get a 5-minute yelling at from the voice. So is this like a third time she's gotten hurt?
I don't know. I think that was the second time. Something about that line that struck me is, like, she said, I'd take whatever pain that would cause me tonight without complaint. Like, earlier in the text, she says something, like, about the whole adrenaline junkie thing.
Yeah.
She says, it's not like I was taking a blade to my wrist or something, like, really dark. But, like, I don't know, like, this is almost just as bad. It's like, not a very obvious form of self-harm, but, like, she is, like, purposely putting herself in danger. She's not fazed by the harm, like, the physical harm she's putting herself in. Mm-hmm. She was totally minimizing this head wound, and she's ready to go again. And I don't know. I think it's really concerning. She needs therapy.
The thing is, some people do ride motorcycles, and they're fine.
Yeah.
But she just, like, isn't doing it for the right reason. She's not paying attention.
Yeah.
Accelerates when she's not ready. And
I rode on your parents' scooter, like moped scooter.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what I was doing. And I thought that the accelerator was the brake. Yeah. So I was full force ahead into a car.
Oh my God.
And I kept trying to brake, but I kept making you accelerate. And I, like, literally a millimeter away from hitting this car. And then
Didn't the guy yell at you?
dodged out of the way. And, yeah. And then this guy yelled at me. I was like, you shouldn't ride that if you don't know what you're doing. And
my mom lets people ride her moped way too easily.
yeah. I almost destroyed it.
I've only gone slow on it, but, like, I know how to ride it. But I rode on it with my boyfriend, Tony. My mom let him ride with me on the back. He had no idea what he was doing. We were literally on it for, like, 10 seconds, and we wiped out and, like, dragged it across the street. And it actually hurt my leg. I was bleeding, like, a ton. But, like, I was in new mood.
That's so funny.
I want to go again.
Did you really?
No, that would be crazy. Like, having gone through that, I mean, it's not a motorcycle, but it's basically the same thing.
Yeah.
It makes me realize, like, it's very weird of Bella to, like...
Yeah. I don't even think I could go back on it.
It hurts, actually, to cut yourself. It's weird for her to not care.
Hitting your head.
Yeah.
Have you ever had, like, a head injury?
Yeah, well, nothing that serious. Like, I've never had stitches or, like, a concussion or anything, but I did... So this is stupid, but I did hit my head on a diving board one time.
Yeah, oh God.
That did hurt for, like...
Wait, so you were jumping in?
Yeah. I did a flip, and I landed on the diving board.
Oh.
Yeah, and then since then, I've never been able to do a flip into a pool again.
So you landed on the diving board and then fell in?
And then fell in the pool. And then I literally couldn't find my way out. Like, I thought I was going to die.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. I don't know how I got out, but, like, my head actually did hurt for, like, a week. So that's probably not good.
Something very similar happened. The only time I really hit my head so hard was swimming underwater.
Oh.
And I thought that I was in the middle of the pool, but I was at the end, and I just crashed into the side. And the same thing is, I didn't know which way was up. I was, for some reason, we had our neighbors over that day too, and they were swimming, and so I hit, the side of the pool, but I thought that I hit, like, one of our neighbors. So I remember underwater, I said, "Oh, sorry."
You're so Bella.
And then I was like, wait, I'm gonna die. I remember I had, like, a huge thing on my head. It's scary.
Yeah. It's not a pleasant feeling. So Bella's pretty tough in that way, or maybe just crazy. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I'm such a hypochondriac. Like, I made my mom take me to the ER. Remember? Off topic.
So, what I thought was super interesting, and I totally forgot about this book and chapter, is that because Bella keeps getting hurt, and she also thinks that Charlie's getting nosy because of her injuries, Jake says maybe we should cool it with the bikes, and then they're like, oh, what do we do? Like, we don't have any other hobbies together.
Yeah.
And I thought this was so weird. Bella suggests they try to find the meadow.
Yeah.
She doesn't say how she knows it, but she says, like, oh, there's this place I went to once. It was not on a trail. And he's like, let's try to find it. And so they use, like, a compass, and they go they go hiking. This taught me a lot. Actually, I never knew how people used compasses, but it's like you follow the grid on a map. I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Like, I literally had no idea that, like, if you stay in a straight line, it will stay on the grid. I had no idea. But I thought that was weird because it's, like, not in a bad way. I just thought it was interesting because it's her and Edward's place.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't find the meadow, but I think it would have been strange for Jacob to be there.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You know? It's like, oh, let me bring you to the place me and my ex used to go to.
Well, she kind of says that when she ends up finding the meadow. She says, I'm glad that, like, Jacob wasn't here because it was, like, very emotional and she wanted to leave after, like, 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of makes me think that, like, she doesn't really care if Jacob was there or not. Well, she does care if Jacob's there, but she just, like, wants someone to accompany her and help her find it. Mm-hmm. There's this part, I feel like this is too dirty of me to bring up, but, like, at the end of the chapter that I thought was, like, really sexual. I don't know if
I know what you're saying. I know what you're saying. Yeah. This is a rated R podcast, so say it.
Is it really? I think I put down that it was explicit because I
There aren't ratings, but yeah, it is explicit. We swear sometimes.
Yes. We probably could control ourselves. But
Yeah, we definitely could.
They're talking about the bears in the woods, and Jacob says, "Bears don't want to eat people. We don't taste that good." He grinned at me in the dark cab. "Of course, you might be an exception. I bet you'd taste good."
Jacob!
Which just seemed like very
Jacob.
sexual to me. I don't know. "Thanks so much," I said, looking away. He wasn't the first
Black.
person to tell me that.
Damn.
Damn.
Jacob, you horn dog.
I guess it's like what Marissa said in our Team Jacob episode about how he's like hot in the books.
Yeah,
Jacob is just like way more physical and forward.
totally.
I don't think that Stephanie meant it that way, but that's the way that I was interpreting it.
Yeah, she probably didn't intend it that way.
Yeah. Did you think the same thing?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
I thought that was a
Yeah.
weird thing to say.
Yeah, yeah.
Very weird. Very weird.
Yeah.
Even if he doesn't mean it that way, it's like obviously showing that he's attracted to her or something. Like,
Exactly.
I bet you'd taste good.
I would, yeah, I mean, that's weird. Like,
Like,
what?
why me?
Are you a cannibal?
Yeah.
Yeah. Why are you thinking that? Yeah.
Okay, the next chapter is pretty good. Chapter 9, Third Wheel.
Oh, God, I love this chapter.
Time began to trip along much more quickly than before. School, work, and Jacob, though not necessarily in that order, created a neat and effortless pattern to follow. That's how it starts.
So this chapter, it's Valentine's Day, and Jacob gets her a Valentine's Day gift.
I thought that was so crazy!
He held out a small pink box, balancing it on his palm.
Conversation hearts.
"Well, I feel like a schmuck," I mumbled. "Is today Valentine's Day?" Jacob shook his head with mock sadness. "You can be so out of it sometimes. Yes, it is the 14th day of February. So are you going to be my Valentine? Since you didn't get me a 50-cent box of candy, it's the least you can do." I started to feel uncomfortable. These words were teasing, but only on the surface. "What exactly does that entail?" I hedged. "The usual, slave for life, that kind of thing." Again, I thought that was pretty sexual.
That is sexual. I'm a slave
For you. I'm not gonna hide it. Oh, well, if that's all, I took the candy, but I was trying to think of some way to make the boundaries clear again.
She obviously isn't into Jacob.
Yeah, and
Like,
she
at all. And
knows
she says she's
at
a-
this point
Yeah,
that
she's,
he is.
says she's
into her.
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I think that's why maybe it made us. It made it hard for us to jump onto the Team Jacob thing because Bella is just not responding
No,
that way.
she doesn't like it.
Yes, and then she tries to make it casual again. And Jacob tries to ask her to hang out, and she says, "I'm going to a movie Friday. I've been promising my cafeteria crowd that I would go out forever." Mike would be pleased, because we didn't mention this, but Mike asked her to go to the movies, and she said yes.
Yeah.
And now she's, like, trying to turn it into a group hang.
But everybody cancels except for Mike and Jacob.
yeah, because she invites Jacob to come along.
Yeah.
And even tells him to bring Quill.
Mm-hmm. But Quill doesn't come. So they're at the movies and she sees Jacob and she goes to high-five him and she says, "He smacked his hand against mine but left it there, twisting his fingers through mine."
Before they go to the movie, I thought this was like, oh my god. I was just like, poor Mike. Like, I was
Yeah.
freaking out. I felt so bad for Mike. Because everybody cancels and it's just Mike and Jacob. And I thought it was kind of funny because Mike's like, "Are you sure you don't want to see Tomorrow and Forever instead?" Rotten Tomatoes gave it a better review. "I want to see Crosshairs," I insisted. "I'm in the mood for action. Bring on the blood and guts." I thought it was just funny that he mentioned Rotten Tomatoes. I don't know why. Anytime anything pop culture is mentioned in Twilight, I just think it's so interesting because the whole series sometimes feels like it's not really part of the real world. If that makes sense. Although they do mention car brands a lot.
It was so savage. Bella says, "Hey, Mike, do you remember Jacob Black?" And Mike says, "Not really."
Not really. Mike held out his hand. Old family friend. Okay, so this is the part that I thought was sucky, is that, like, Jake brought his new car that he fixed, the Rabbit, and Mike sits in the back of the car,
Yeah.
and Bella and Jacob are, like, blabbing in the front and, like, having fun, and he's just in the back there, and I felt so bad. Also, the fact that they were like, oh, is it okay if we take Jacob's car?
Yeah.
When they were originally going to take his. And it's just kind of like a weird power move. But then...
Wait, before Mike shows up, Jacob is talking about how Mike has a crush on Bella. And he says, I remember this guy, he said in a low voice as Mike parked across the street, the one who thought you were his girlfriend. Is he still confused? I raised one eyebrow. Some people are hard to discourage. Then again, Jacob said thoughtfully, sometimes persistence pays off. And then Belle says, most of the time it's just annoying. So it's like kind of
so many
like,
double meanings.
Yeah.
So, like, at first, Mike's sulking in the backseat. I don't know why I'm, like, so into this part. And then it says, and then Mike changed his strategy. He leaned forward, resting his chin on the shoulder of my seat. His cheek almost touched mine. I shifted away, turning my back towards the window. It just starts off badly from the beginning. So then they go to the movies.
They both are doing the thing in the movie that we see where they're holding out their hand for Bella to hold them. And she doesn't hold either, but Mike gives up first.
I wrote, why doesn't Bella have any sense? Being so inconsiderate to Mike. But really, she was being inconsiderate to both of them, I think, because I think she was really leading them on. And really, like, I think Mike asked her out first, thinking it was like a date, and then she just took control of the whole thing and turned it into, like, group hang.
Yeah.
Jacob's coming, and, like, she honestly should have just canceled on him if she was gonna do that. Like, I don't know, I just feel bad for him.
Yeah.
In this chapter.
She should have been upfront. Well, she did say to him, Mike asked her out, and she said, like, a date.
Yeah.
And he said, not if you don't want it to be. And she said, like, no.
Yeah.
So she was kind of upfront. You know, Mike gets sick. He's, like, in the bathroom throwing up. And this is the first time where Jacob is pretty honest about his feelings for Bella.
Well, he's like, now, just hold on a minute, Bella. Tell me something. I grimaced. I didn't want to do this. Not just now, but not ever. That there is nothing left in my life at this point that was more important than Jacob Black, but he seemed determined to ruin everything. What? I muttered sourly. You like me, right? You know I do. Better than that joker puking his guts out in there? Poor Mike. Yes, I sighed. Better than any of the other guys you know. Better than the girls, too, I pointed out. But that's all, he said. And it wasn't a question. Yes, I whispered. I like that she admitted that. Yeah, and he says, I'm prepared to be annoyingly persistent.
Why?
I'm not going to change, I said, and though I tried to keep my voice normal, I could hear the sadness in it. His face was thoughtful, no longer teasing. It's still the other one, isn't it?
And that kind of hurts Bella to think about. It's the first time they acknowledged Edward together. And he says again that he's not going to give up. I've got loads of time, he says. I sighed. You shouldn't waste it on me, I said, though I wanted him to, especially if he was willing to accept me the way I was, damaged goods as is. So it's like kind of this weird conflict because Bella doesn't want him to keep chasing after her. She doesn't want anything more than a friendship, but she also doesn't want him to back away because she doesn't want to lose him as a friend.
Yeah. And it's weird because, like, he holds her hand and she kind of tries to pull it away. He held onto it obstinately. This doesn't really bother you, does it? He demanded, squeezing my fingers. No, I sighed. Truthfully, it felt nice. And you don't care what he thinks. Jacob jerked his thumb towards the bathroom. I guess not. So what's the problem? The problem, I said, is that it means something different to me than it does to you. Well, he tied his hand around mine. That's my problem, isn't it? It's just very tough, weird situation.
Yeah.
I don't really know why he's like, he's almost saying like he wants to just be with her even though he knows she's not really
into it. Feeling the same way. Yeah. And I just feel like, I don't know, when you're in that situation, like Jacob is being very vulnerable here, but when you're vulnerable, you have to open up to the possibility that you might get rejected, and you have to be willing to accept that. You have to be receptive to what they say.
So Mike's thrown up, like he has the flu, and then Jacob is burning up suddenly, feels really hot.
I did think that Jacob wasn't as mean to Mike in this part. He does go behind the concession stand and get him a bucket to throw up in, a popcorn bucket.
Definitely not as over the top as the movie.
Yeah. Feeling sick.
Maybe you should go to the hospital.
Want me to put you in the hospital?
Could say that a million times.
Bella also gets the stomach flu, so she's like...
True. And that was not in the movie. Yeah,
Yeah.
she gets the flu too.
So we know that there's something going around.
Mm-hmm. And then before she goes home, before all that, this is when Jacob says, I would never, ever hurt you.
Mm-hmm.
And then she says, honestly, it's kind of like ruins the whole relationship, like romance thing, I think. How much I wish that Jacob Black had been born my brother, my flesh and blood brother, so that I would have some legitimate claim on him that still left me free of any blame now. Heaven knows I had never wanted to use Jacob, but I couldn't help but interpret the guilt I felt now to mean that I had.
Yeah.
This just reminds me, actually, when New Moon, Twilight, when the movies first came out, I remember I was hanging out with my friends, and my friend Nikki said, Taylor Lautner is so hot. I wish he was my cousin. It reminds me of this.
Why?
We were like, Nikki, why would you want him to be your cousin? And she's like, well, because then, you know, like, you would always get to see him. Like, he'd be at family parties. Like,
gross.
and we were like, but Nikki, you can't be with him if he's your cousin. And
Yeah.
she's like, oh, yeah, you're right.
I feel like that's a thing that she said knowing it was going to be weird.
Hopefully. Nikki, you're the best if you're listening.
Nikki Reed?
No.
I'm
Team Jacob. You
Jacob's
are?
is there. But, also on page 219, Bella says, but I needed Jacob now, needed him like a drug. I had used him as a crutch for too long, and I was in deeper than I'd planned to go with anyone again. Now I couldn't bear for him to be hurt, and I couldn't keep from hurting him either. He thought time and patience would change me, and though I knew he was dead wrong, I also knew that I would let him try.
These are their best friends.
Yeah, it's tough. She doesn't want to lose him, but she kind of has to. But, like, the idea of, like, needing him like a drug, that's kind of unhealthy.
Oh, Bella. That's our bells for us.
My Bella.
Yeah, they talk on the phone. He's sick. Or, you know, something's going on with him. She's sick. She says, I'll see you soon. Wait for me to call. He said again, okay, bye, Jacob. Bella, he whispered my name and then hung up the phone.
The next chapter, the first line is, Jacob didn't call. This is chapter 10. It's called The Meadow.
The Meadow.
Billy Black says that Jacob has mononucleosis. This was personal for me because I had mono.
Yeah, mono is like a life ruiner.
It ruined my life. Bella looks up the symptoms for it, and she saw that, you know, they can last about a month, and I wrote in the margin, it's more like 2 years.
Yeah, I knew somebody in high school who honestly was never the same after she had mono.
Yeah. It took
Honestly,
me so long to
I would say
recover
like a
from.
year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even, like, when you get over the symptoms, like, the very painful symptoms, you're still just, like, so tired all the time. Mm-hmm. It's horrible. So I don't really appreciate Jacob appropriating
Oh my god.
such a horrible disease.
I guess he had to pick some kind of disease that would last a long time.
Yeah, and it makes sense because when you have mono, you can't do anything. You don't want to see anyone.
But maybe he should have picked something that was like actually contagious.
Well,
or
mono.
something. Well, it is, but
Yeah.
like you don't get it from just like walking in someone's room.
Yeah, exactly.
He acts like she can't even go to the house.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. You visited me in the hospital when I had mono. I remember it.
Honestly, mono is like, they should do something about that.
I know.
Like, how is there no cure?
No, it's horrible. If you had a job or something, you wouldn't be, like, I was in school. I was able to, like, have the guidance counselors and stuff, like, work around it, and I got all these extensions. But if you had a job, like, I don't know what you would do.
Wow.
You wouldn't be able to go in. I mean, there's
God.
some more severe cases, but it's horrible.
We should start a
walk.
fundraiser.
Yeah.
A walk. I mean, really.
You know.
Anyway, my first note for this chapter was Bella is being so unreasonable again. Lies to Charlie that she'll hang out with Jess and instead goes hiking alone.
Mm-hmm.
It's just hard to read sometimes. It's just very frustrating. I'm like, please, just hang out with Angela. Why are you lying to your dad? He's like, you know, Belle's would be good for you to hang out with your friends. And she's like, okay, yeah, Dad, I will. And she's lying. And I don't know.
Yeah.
I get it. Like, she's a teenager and she doesn't want to listen to her dad, but he's right. So it's just hard to. Oh, frustrates me.
Yeah, and poor Charlie.
I know.
He cares so much about Bella.
And on page 231, he says, "That's a good idea," because she lies about hanging out with her friends. "You've been spending so much time with Jacob, your other friends are going to think you've forgotten them." I smiled and nodded as if I cared what my other friends thought. That's what I wrote. Capitalize. She doesn't care at all. In some ways, I think it's admirable to, like, not care what people think. But in other ways, I think that
Angela,
you can hurt people from acting that way.
Angela's so sweet. Like, remember a couple chapters ago she said she missed her?
Yeah.
Like, come
And
on.
she hasn't made a single effort to do anything about that. Like,
No.
oh, you miss me? Keep missing me.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
I
And
know.
especially since Bella was just experienced guilt for, like, zoning all of them out. Like, oh my god. Follow up.
It really kills me.
Ugh.
This whole part of this whole second act of New Moon is very interesting.
Yeah.
It's very in between state. It's definitely unlike, I think, any other part of the book series.
Yeah.
All these chapters. So then Bella, you know,
finds
Jacob
the
is
meadow.
ignoring her,
Yeah.
not answering her calls, so she decides to go find the meadow by herself, which is very dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Especially knowing about the bears
Yeah.
in the woods.
Really risky.
So
And also, it took like 6 miles last time.
yeah.
So
yeah.
it could be nighttime by the time you. Oh, this girl.
Yeah. So then Laurent shows up, and she's kind of excited to see him at first.
Yeah.
Because it's like proof that this vampire world existed to her.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that she at first doesn't really notice the color of his eyes.
Yeah.
But then when she does, she's pretty terrified. Because Laurent in her mind was like a bad guy turned good. She knew that he like went to stay with the Denali clan and to adopt the Cullen's way of life, but he didn't stick to it.
Okay. I'm just laughing right now because I know my parents are probably going to listen to this and I don't want them to, but I ate some, it's completely legal where I live in Massachusetts, marijuana, chocolate, before I read this chapter.
Did you really?
And I was actually so scared. I was terrified reading this.
It's so...
I was like literally in bed reading this and I was really scared. I was super nervous, even though I know how the book turns out. Like, it was just super intense. Like, Laurent being there and he's gonna kill Bella and then the wolves come and she doesn't know that the wolves are like good. So it was just really scary to me.
That's so funny because I actually smoked weed right before reading this chapter too.
Are you kidding me?
No.
That's
It's completely legal. Oh my god. No, I was terrified. I was thinking this
Are you kidding me?
No, I
we
literally...
both did.
Yes.
Oh my god. It's so scary.
Yeah, no, I was like, this would have terrified me.
Yeah. You even wrote it in the book. So scary. It was.
That's so funny. Yeah. No, it's completely legal here in Massachusetts.
Yeah. So don't judge us.
I think just like him standing across from her. Something I thought was weird is how casual Bella is in talking to him. Like, she says, "I'll have to mention to Carlisle that you stopped by. He'll be sorry that they missed your visit. I pretended to deliberate for a second. But I probably shouldn't mention it to Edward, I suppose. I barely managed to say his name, and it twisted my expression on the way out, ruining my bluff. He has such a temper. Well, I'm sure you remember. He's still touchy about the whole James thing." Like, to describe it as touchy, like...
Yeah.
Like, oh, Edward needs to get over that. This guy just tried to kill me.
I know. I think it was just scary, like, realizing that there's nothing she could say to talk her way out of this.
Yeah.
She's trying to say things, and he's stepping closer, kind of slowly, and then she's getting desperate, and she's like, "He'll know it was you. You won't get away with this." And why not? Laurent's smile widened, and then she says, "Please." And it was just really freaking me out.
No, it's so scary. Something I was wondering is, I'm assuming that Alice is still keeping tabs on Bella's future.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't she see this and step in and try to save her?
I don't know.
Is it because
I
the
guess
wolves
she
show up
wasn't-
right after?
I guess she wasn't paying... Yeah, probably the wolves interference. And she probably isn't keeping tabs on Laurent. And this is more like his decision. than Bella's. But I don't really get how Bella's visions work, you know?
But, like, wouldn't she see Bella just, like, in the meadow? I mean, it's Bella's decision to go there.
I don't know. Maybe Bella was never really in danger somehow.
Yeah.
Because she was always going to get saved by the wolves. Who knows?
Yeah. And Bella got real lucky.
Mm-hmm.
I think I wrote that in my notes.
I think I also felt really scared about the whole, like, so the next chapter 11 is called Cult.
Yeah.
And Bella still doesn't know about the wolf pack. Spoiler if you didn't know about the wolf packs. But while I was, like, kind of high reading this, I was also feeling really scared about the whole cult thing. It was really hitting me. I'm like, holy shit, like, Jacob is not answering her calls. Like, he's disappeared. He's changed. He's in this group of guys, and, like, it's really scary. Like, my emotions were just heightened reading this.
Yeah.
Like, I could really feel it. I was really scared. I think when I was, like, lying to go to bed, I was, like, scared.
It's, like, all coming back to you now.
Yeah, it is.
I thought that Bella was being really clingy in this chapter. She says, on Wednesday, I called every half hour until after 11 at night, desperate to hear the warmth of Jacob's voice. And then she actually goes and she calls, and Billy says that, you know, Jacob is busy, and Billy's being very vague.
Yeah.
And Bella goes and drives up and just waits outside Jacob's house. Like, that actually
Is
really...
a little
That's
creepy.
stalker behavior.
And like we said before about, Jacob should take the hint. Bella should too, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I feel for her. Like, that sucks to be dropped by her friend.
Yeah.
But she kind of has to just take what she's being given and accept that he doesn't want to see her.
Yeah.
Well, whatever.
She's being very clingy, which is weird because she originally is so independent.
She tells her dad, actually, that she's worried about Jacob.
Yeah, and
about the whole cult thing.
At first, Charlie kind of dismisses it and
Yeah.
said it's fine. He has a lot of respect for Sam Yulee because Sam's the one that found Bella in the woods.
Yeah. But then she's like, Dad, it's not like that. Jacob was scared of him. And then Charlie starts to actually get concerned.
Yeah, because Bella goes there and Jacob is, like, kind of mean to her.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, like, visibly upsets Bella, and Charlie's so scared that Bella's going to become the way she was before.
Doesn't he call?
He calls
Billy.
Billy and he's, like, yelling
yeah.
at Billy on the phone.
Go, Charlie!
Yeah, it's so sweet. And then Billy's, like, blaming it on Bella and blaming...
Fuck Billy.
Yeah, I fucking hate Billy.
I hate Billy, too. I really hate Billy.
He's blaming it on Bella and, like, how Bella doesn't requite Jacob's romantic feelings.
Yeah. What a dick.
Yeah.
I thought it was really interesting that, like, one of the times she drives to La Push to kind of stalk down Jacob, she sees Quill walking on the side of the road. Mm-hmm. He's really sad because he has no friends left. And she gives him a ride home. And I thought that was really sweet because, I don't know, in the movies we never see her interact with the other Quill people on their own, I don't think.
Yeah.
Like, we don't really see her hang out with any of them, so I thought it was cool that, like, they kind of had a little connection talking about, like, have you seen Jacob today? From a distance, and, like, he says he tried to follow them, and, like, they're both on the outside now, so it sucks for both of them, but...
Something that was so hurtful is when Bella does confront Jacob finally, he's just being very mean. His whole demeanor has changed. And she says, I thought we were friends. And he responds, he says, we were. There was a slight emphasis on the past tense. That would really hurt me.
I know. When
I heard that.
First thing he says, well, actually, first he says, what are you doing here, Bella? And then he says, what do you want? Like, it's just, and it says demanded and growled. It's not like just, what do you want?
Oh, I did notice that there's a lot of, like, dog language.
Yeah, I noticed that
she
too.
She uses, like, growled. He has a husky voice.
You know what else I noticed?
What?
Which I thought it was just a very small detail. On page 262, when she's waiting for Jacob, she's, like, sitting in her car, and she has nothing to do. So she starts doodling on the back of scrap paper, and it says, I had only had time to scrawl one row of diamonds when there was a sharp tap against my door. I wondered if she drew diamonds, like, because of Edward.
Yeah,
like, his
probably.
skin.
That's such a small detail, but probably. Yeah, she's still thinking about Edward.
But yeah, Jacob is so mean here. And it's kind of the same exact thing that Edward did, I think, where he's like, I'm dangerous, like, you can't be part of this. Like, he's being mean just to get her to go away because it's, like, for her own good, I think. Yeah. But also the pack, like, just won't let anybody know about them, so she doesn't know yet. But, like, yeah, he's a werewolf, and he's trying to keep it a secret. She says she wants to talk, and he says, go ahead, he hissed through his teeth. His glare was vicious. I'd never seen him look at anyone like that, least of all me. It hurt with a surprising intensity, a physical pain, a stabbing in my head. Alone, I hissed. 2 people hissed in a row. He looked behind him, and I knew where his eyes would go. Every one of them was turned for Sam's reaction. Sam nodded once, his face unperturbed. It's just very weird that he needs permission to talk to Bella.
Yeah. It's like he's pledging.
Yeah, it is like an extreme fraternity.
Something I was wondering about in this chapter is how can the tribe hate the Cullens so much when they know that they aren't killing people and that they have no control over their situation and they're just trying their best to be good people. Like, they know that they're doing the best with what they have.
It's not really fair. They aren't killing humans, so I don't know why they're like, you're filthy bloodsuckers.
Yeah.
Like, chill.
Like, because Jacob is like, if you want someone to blame those filthy bloodsuckers you love so much, the Cullens. And then Belle's like, I don't know why you would blame them. Like, she's acting very ignorant. Jacob says, Sam isn't doing anything, Bella, and I know they're gone, but sometimes things are set in motion, and then it's too late. What's set in motion? What's too late? What are you blaming them for? He was suddenly right in my face, his fury glowing in his eyes. For existing, he hissed.
Like, there's a lot of hissing in this.
Yeah. It's not their fault that they exist.
I know.
Like, come on, like, you have no control over being a werewolf.
And it seems like, actually, the problems picked up when, like, Victoria and stuff was around.
Yeah. I kind of feel like they don't know the difference between, like, Victoria and the Cullens.
Yeah.
Like, they just think that, like, all vampires are like that, or, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe they think Victoria's, like, their friend? I don't know.
So he walks off, and basically, like, they're not friends anymore, and Bella's very upset, and she goes home. It's raining.
And that's when Charlie calls Billy.
And I thought this was, like, really sad, but an interesting part. She goes home, and her thoughts are, not as bad, not as bad. My mind tried to comfort me. It was true. This wasn't as bad. This wasn't the end of the world. Not again. This is just the end of what little piece there was left behind. That was all. Not as bad, I agreed, then added, but bad enough. So she's, like, comparing it to her breakup with Edward. And I think it's very similar. And it's really unfortunate for Bella that she had to experience both of these things in the same year.
Yeah.
Or the same school year. It really sucks.
She has this quote that says, I thought it was kind of funny, her analogy. She says, I'd thought Jake had been healing the hole in me, or at least plugging it up, keeping it from hurting me so much. I'd been wrong. He'd just been carving out his own hole, so that I was now riddled through like Swiss cheese. I wondered why I didn't crumble into pieces. Sad.
She has another dream, of course.
Yeah. At this point, I was over
This
the
is a
dreams.
very weird dream. Jacob turns into Edward.
Yeah.
Okay.
That happens all the time in dreams.
Yeah. Then, that's when I heard the noise that must have wakened me in the first place. Something sharp scraped along the length of my window with a high-pitched squeal, like fingernails against the glass.
Ooh, it's kind of scary.
It's scary.
But it's Jacob.
Don't read this book if you're high.
Yeah. I think that's another reason why it was taking me so long.
Also, don't do that if you're under 21.
Yes. Good, responsible thing that you said.
It's reckless and stupid. So chapter 12 is called Intruder.
So,
Who is the intruder? Is it Laurent? Is it...
Laurent died 2 chapters ago.
She doesn't know that.
Oh, yeah, she doesn't know.
Laurent? Is it Victoria?
Is it Edward?
Is it Sam Yuli?
Is it Billy? Oh, God. I hate Billy.
She thinks it is Victoria.
Yeah,
But-
but it's Jacob.
Yep.
He climbs up her window in the classic teen
Yeah.
fantasy.
The second guy to do that
Mhm.
in her
Yeah.
life.
Not that special.
I said that I loved the paragraph on the bottom of page 280.
Oh, I have the same thing.
I'd cried myself to sleep over this boy. His harsh rejection had punched a painful new hole in what was left of my chest. He'd left a new nightmare behind him like an infection in a sore, the insult after the injury. And now here he was in my room, smirking at me as if none of that had passed. Worse than that, even though his arrival had been noisy and awkward, it reminded me of when Edward used to sneak in through my window at night, and the reminder picked viciously at the unhealed wounds.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
This book, I think, is very well written.
Mm-hmm.
Stephanie, really did a good job
Yeah.
at... Stephanie, if you're listening. Good job at just, putting us in Bella's shoes and really feeling those
Yeah.
emotions thoroughly and not glossing over them.
You know, I get mad at Jacob during all these things, and I felt a little joy when Bella hissed at him to get out on page 281. So much hissing,
Yeah.
but that's okay.
Get out, I hissed, putting as much venom into the whisper as I could. Ooh, venom. He blinked, his face going blank with surprise. No, he protested. I came to apologize. I don't accept. I tried to shove him out the window. After all, if this was a dream, because it woke her up, it wouldn't really hurt him. It was useless, though. I didn't budge him an inch. I dropped my hands quickly and stepped away from him.
And he's not wearing a shirt,
Yeah.
and he has tons of muscles all of a sudden.
And so he comes and he's trying to explain himself and saying that he is so tightly bound and he cannot explain to her why and what's going on with this cult that he's in, and trying to make her guess what his secret is. And Bella's really tired and she's I'm exhausted, can we talk about this tomorrow?
Yeah.
And it was such a big contrast to in Twilight how obsessed Bella is with discovering the Cullen secret.
Yeah, you're right.
And she doesn't really care that much
She's
about discovering Jacob's.
time.
Yeah.
I'll think about this tomorrow.
She really doesn't care. He took a steady breath and nodded. Maybe it will come back to you. I guess I understand why you only remember the one story, he added in a sarcastic, bitter tone. He plucked back onto the mattress beside me. Do you mind if I ask you a question about that? He asked, still sarcastic. I've been dying to know. A question about what? I asked wearily. About the vampire story I told you. I stared at him with guarded eyes, unable to answer. He asked the question anyway. Did you honestly not know? He asked me, his voice turning husky. Was I the only one who told you what he was? How did he know this? Why did he decide to believe? Why now? My teeth clenched together. I stared back at him, no intention of speaking.
I think it's interesting. I don't really get why Jacob's saying that. Did he know? I thought he thought it was just a silly story.
Yeah.
He's oh, did you really not know? I was the one to tell you.
Well,
yeah.
and then Jacob says, see what I mean about loyalty? It's the same for you. So, him saying that was a test to see if Bella would admit that the Cullens are vampires, which she doesn't do.
Yeah. True.
Oh, I then was going to say that, Jacob says that he cannot tell Bella about this secret because of safety, but Bella interprets that to mean that, he knows about Victoria and that he's trying to protect himself from Victoria. That, that's why he can't hang out with her, because he doesn't want to be around Bella when she's such a target.
Totally misunderstood.
Miscommunication.
So, yeah. He's hoping that she'll remember the story about the legends and the wolves and stuff. And,
she does. It comes to her in a dream. Another dream.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, she remembers that he's a wolf, and she feels really scared and conflicted because she thinks that they're killing all the people. And
I feel like she didn't feel conflicted enough.
well, because the next morning she hears that Charlie says the Rangers are going out to shoot the wolves, and then suddenly she feels nervous, oh my god,
They're gonna shoot Jacob. Yeah.
So then at the end of the chapter, she's left wondering what she should choose, how she should feel. She says, Jacob was my best friend, but was he a monster too? A real one? A bad one? Should I warn him? And if his friends were were murderers, if they were out slaughtering innocent hikers in cold blood, if they were truly creatures from a horror movie in every sense, would it be wrong to protect them? So she's not sure what to do.
There's an interesting thing that she said as well. It says, besides, there never been one moment that I wasn't completely aware that Edward Cullen was above and beyond the ordinary. It wasn't such a surprise to find out what he was, because he so obviously was something.
Mm-hmm.
But Jacob, who was just Jacob and nothing more than that, Jacob, my friend, Jacob, the only human I'd ever been able to relate to, and he wasn't even human. It's kind of sad, but also just like, what a diss.
I know. Yeah, what is up with this girl? Why
Yeah.
can she only relate to, like, supernatural beings?
Yeah. Well, maybe because she's destined to become one.
Maybe.
There was just too many dreams. Like, this chapter ends with another dream, and I just thought that, like, it really loses my attention.
Yeah, there were too many dreams. It's not like this book, it's pretty long. I feel like some of them could have been cut out.
Yeah.
No offense.
I feel like this was a natural place to end this episode because now we know Jacob's secret, which is like...
So we're not reading 13.
No, I didn't read it yet.
Oh, okay.
That's actually why it's a natural place to end. I don't think I read it.
Wow. Probably not if you don't have notes.
No.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, that's the end of chapter 12, and then we are brought to chapter 13 called Killer, but Mel hasn't read it yet, so
Yeah.
if anyone else is reading it, this will give you time to reread it too, or read it for the first time.
Yeah, and so then...
So now she has to decide what she's going to do about Jacob.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So next week we'll probably pick up there.
So what are your thoughts so far on New Moon?
I'm really enjoying it. To be honest, I think I'm enjoying it more than Twilight.
No way.
I don't know. I think it's just better written. It's cleaned up a little bit more. I mean, I know we have like a lot of hisses, but I don't know. I just think it's better.
I'd say, yeah, like criticisms, a little bit too much use of the word hiss.
Yeah.
Maybe too many dreams.
Too many dreams, yes.
But I do really like this book. I will say that, like, where I was at so far, at chapter 12, I don't like it more than Twilight, I wouldn't say.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just where I am
I think
now.
the feelings just feel a lot more raw, and I really like it. It's like moving me.
Yeah.
But Twilight also moves me. I think feels a little bit new to me since it's been so long since I've read it.
I think that it's just, it's different. Like, Twilight, you're really propelled forward because you're like, oh my god,
Yeah.
who is this Edward Cullen? Are they gonna kiss? Like, blah, blah, blah. But this is very different. I think you are still wondering, though. I mean, if this is the first time you're reading it, you're wondering, like, when does Edward come back?
Mm-hmm.
And as I was rereading it, I was kind of, like, waiting for that.
Yeah.
But while also enjoying experiencing this whole heartbreak thing with Bella, and also the interesting new relationship with Jacob.
What do you think of the book cover? I'm just looking at it now.
Oh, it's very pretty. We have a white and red flower.
You've said before you think this is the weakest one.
Yeah, I think it is the most forgettable.
Yeah.
I think I don't know. I don't think it's as strong as the other ones. I think there's one petal falling off. I think it's supposed to be symbolic of loss, or like the flower's wilting, so it's like kind of dying. But maybe it's supposed to also be a drop of blood or something. But I just don't think it's as strong as the apple in the hands. That's like a classic visual. It's like iconic. The ribbon for Eclipse, I think, is really strong. Just like the motion of it and the way that it's like torn into. And then I think the chess piece for Breaking Dawn is pretty cool. That's probably, I think my favorite is Twilight cover, then Eclipse, then Breaking Dawn, then New Moon.
I don't know. I don't know if I like the chess piece. I just don't really like Breaking Dawn that much in general.
Yeah. I think the New Moon cover is pretty, but
it kind of reminds me of that classic thing that no one really does, where you have a flower and you're like, he loves me not, he loves me, he loves me not, and
true.
like there's a petal falling.
I don't like hate it, but it's just,
This is the one that Stephanie had no say in.
Yeah.
Right? They just picked it.
also bugs me a little bit that there's green in it, but that's okay.
Oh yeah, there is some green in it. This is a stock photo as well.
Mm-hmm.
Getty Images.
I do like it. I think all the Twilight books are so beautiful.
Yeah.
Like, I think that they're kind of like minimal, but really artistic.
They're
and-
striking.
Yeah.
I have inside my book, it says Melissa Duffy at homeroom 111.
Oh my gosh.
From when I was in 7th grade.
Man, I love
My
Twilight.
books are falling apart. Yours is so, like, it's in great condition.
Yeah. Well, I've like chilled out a little bit recently, but when I was younger, I used to be like pretty OCD about my books and like was really careful to not even bend the pages too much or anything.
Oh,
So
yeah.
all my books are in pretty good shape.
My Twilight is so worn. I'm just looking at it right now. It's falling apart. I wish it was hardcover. Well, I have the Life and Death
True.
hardcover.
We're actually using Life and Death as a prop for our microphone right now. Wow. Well, get reading, Mel, because we gotta talk about the rest of New Moon.
I know. I think I will.
No rush.
I'm really like sucked into it. I was being way too extreme with my notes. Every single page, I stopped and thought about things.
Yeah.
But
It's easy to do. I mean, I had to like hold myself back. I was like,
yeah,
oh, I could comment on this. No, don't.
yeah,
There is so much. I mean, there's so much I didn't say.
yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, that's what like.
Can you think of
stresses me
something
out.
right now? I don't know.
The part with Laurent where she's just thinking like Edward because
Oh,
she
yeah.
thinks that those are the last like thoughts that she's gonna ever have,
Yeah.
and so she's like the rules don't matter because before she said that she
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
allowed to think about him, and I thought that was really sad and
That was.
kind of sweet. In the movie, she says, Edward, I love you, which I
Oh,
think
yeah.
is not as strong. It's kind of weird.
Edward, I love you.
Oh, something I was going to say is the movie, the color scheme is like very brown.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was reading this, though, I was like, wow, like this book is really gray, like so far.
Mm-hmm.
And my head is just like very gray and sad.
Yeah,
So I was trying
feel
to
that.
I was trying to make our Instagram kind of gray, but I just didn't really visually like the way it looked.
No worries.
But yeah, that's like the pictures that I was seeing.
Okay, well, thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you for listening 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah.
It's going to be 3 weeks in a row.
Hope you enjoyed this, and let us know your thoughts about New Moon, the book, or anything else Twilight.
Yeah, and if you get a chance, be sure to subscribe and rate and review us on Apple. Can you do that on Spotify too?
No.
Oh, on YouTube if you're listening there, which you probably aren't, but if you
Some
are,
people are. Some people are. Like
You can-
40 people are.
Yeah, you can like it. That would help us. And we love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks for writing us.
Bye.
Bye.
See you really soon.
Have a great week. We love you.
We love you.
Au revoir.
Ciao.
I never know how to end these. I think that's it. That's good.
You can contact us at anotherbiteoftwilight@gmail.com or find us on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram at anotherbiteoftwilight. Theme music is by Traces. See you next time.